know that the numbers, although there's been a lot of talk of what could happen to EV sales, EV penetration continues to soar with the number of new cars sold. And it is still outpacing the number of fast chargers, correct?
It is. I mean, if you look at the numbers, EV sales are increasing at a continuous growth rate higher than charging today. I think that's exacerbated, Jason, by the fact that, 1 in 4 chargers are not working the way they should. So even if we didn't build to, meet demand, which, we need to, we still have a fleet or charging network out there that isn't working to the level of quality that drivers expect it to.
And overcoming those obstacles are exactly what you have in mind. I mean, we all have our stories, and it's the broken ones, and it's the ones where there's no accessibility, or just simply the footprint doesn't allow you to drive very far. What's the end state here, Andrew? Do you get to a point where you are dotting the landscape every X number of miles so that any and all of those anxieties go away?
It's an interesting question. At the end of the day, the answer is no. You don't need charging ubiquity literally everywhere because, at some point, battery technology will continue to improve. You will be able to, get around your hometown, without having to charge except for at night when you plug in, or, you'll need, a charger every 100 miles, but you don't need it every 25 miles if you're on a long, road trip. At the end of the day, our goal here is simple. It is to elevate the charging experience. So we still see a long way to go there for the industry. I mean, that's everything around quality, Jason. So when you show up, it works. We call it uptime. Right now, our network is 99% uptime. So when you show up, it works 99% of the time. And that 1% is something that we're working through with firmware and hardware and all the other kind of, combinations in between, as well as it's accessible, as well as there's a level of performance behind the network that the driver expects. So I think, there is some wood to chop around the standards of charging that will take us a few years down the road. And then beyond that, the end state here again is, charging. For me, I call it, the grandparent test. Charging is so easy that someone with zero experience in charging, zero experience in technology can essentially show up, plug in, walk away, and have a great experience, whatever they want to be doing, whether, they're walking away to spend time with their family, have a cup of coffee, go to work, be at home, whatever that experience is, charging works every single time.
And a lot of headlines around how long it takes to charge.
Yep.
And while most mainstream EVs take anywhere from 15 to 40 minutes to charge, lo and behold, BYD comes out recently and says, well, now we have vehicles that will accept 1,000 kilowatts of charging power, about 4 times more than a typical Tesla. And the charge time will be as low as 5 minutes for 250 miles. Game changer?
To some extent, yes. To some extent, yes. But I do want to explain this one because I think it's important, which is to say, 1,000 kilowatt charging, which is kind of, industry jargon, essentially very fast charging.
Yep.
Has always existed all by on one side of that handshake. So it takes, 2 sides of a handshake to make charging work. BYD's announcement was car and charger now can have that complete handshake. On the charging side, we've always been able to deliver a lot of power. On the vehicle side, to your point, the breakthrough, Jason, was such that the battery technology and the voltage architecture within the vehicle now can actually accept that charger. What's important to also mention, though, is Ola, our CEO, just a couple of weeks ago announcing our new CLA platform, which is an 800 voltage architecture. So maybe not 5 minutes of charging time to what BYD is mentioning, but that CLA product will charge within 10 to 12 minutes. So I think the question here is, how quick do you actually need to charge? And I go back to the fueling analogy, which it takes about 10 to 12 minutes to actually fuel your vehicle, which is about the time it takes to walk in and use the restroom, wrangle the kids, get out and stretch your legs. So I think 5 minutes is amazing, Jason. But at the end of the day, at some point, there's diminishing returns because we as humans still have basic amenities and services that we need whenever we stop our vehicle.
It's important for people to understand, though, that generally that this is not a a prolonged experience anymore, right? Which has been the big barrier. You know how,
Correct.
And unless I'm going to a movie, right, then I really don't need to charge it for that long.
Yeah. Well, I think you're hitting on a really interesting point about charging. And, in another world, I should probably kind of like go down the therapy or, psychology route, because, people talk about the social psychology and the range anxiety that exists around charging, because the actual problem is bigger than the reality of the issue. And I think, to your point, you're hitting sort of the nail on the head, which is people just want faster because it's what is, marketable and it's what sells. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to accomplish here with Mercedes-Benz high power charging is creating the right experience and attenuating that experience to what someone does at that location. So as much as we want to dial up speed and dial up power, we fundamentally want to dial down inconvenience.